Hallelujah! For the second day, no bombs fell on women and children in Gaza. No missiles shredded old men and old ladies. No shell fire destroyed what's left of the architecture of the once bustling Gaza Strip, home to 2.3 million people. Of course, there are fewer people now because wholesale slaughter for 16 months has been the daily reality of the Palestinian people under occupation in Gaza. Of course, the ceasefire may not last like so many ceasefires before it. Of course, the killing continues in the occupied Palestinian territory that they call the West Bank. Of course, Palestinians and Lebanese continue to be killed in Lebanon, despite a ceasefire officially existing there. But it has been an historic victory. The war aims of the Netanyahu murder gang have singularly failed in front of the eyes of the whole world. They said they were going to release their prisoners of war by force. They said they were going to eliminate the Palestinian resistance in Gaza. But they achieved neither of these goals. And they lost up to 10,000 of their own soldiers, killed and wounded, many of them disabled forever, physically and psychologically. The economy of what they call Israel has been virtually destroyed, brought to its knees by the cost of these conflicts, not just in Gaza, not just in keeping their iron grip of the people of the West Bank, not just in their invasion of Lebanon, but the wear and tear of the resistance axis everywhere has taken a terrific toll on Israel's economic, its physical, and its mental well-being. Never has there been a time in the 50 years that I've been involved in this cause when Israel has looked more weak, more divided, more feeble. And when the spokesman, Abu Ubaidah, of the Palestinian resistance, which Blinken declared, Blinken, not me, was as strong today as it was the day this latest batch of mass killing began. When Abu Ubaidah spoke, he thanked not just the steadfast people of Gaza, but the allies who had fought alongside and with the Palestinian resistance. And he named them. He named the resistance in Lebanon. He named the resistance in Yemen, the resistance in Iraq, and he named the Islamic Republic of Iran as their partners in this epic, historic struggle, the victory of which is being celebrated on the streets of Gaza today. It was one in the eye for the sectarian fools, the Takfiri extremists, who like to distance themselves at best and excoriate at worst anybody who stands up for Palestine outside of their own narrow political and religious interpretation. And they cannot bear that the spokesman of the resistance in Gaza itself went out of his way to praise the people they hate so much. Confused? I am too. Let's try and get some clarity on it. From a man from Gaza, the most preeminent Arab journalist in the world, Abdel Bari Atwan, here on Have It Out with Galloway. Abdel Bari Atwan is the preeminent Arab journalist. For a time, he was the last Arab journalist. He's been joined in the course of this conflict with hundreds of others, 300 of them martyrs, who have given their life's blood to bring us the truth on an hourly basis, minute by minute, live streamed, of this epic genocide which Israel carried out. It failed. The Palestinians have emerged victorious, and no one will be happier than Abdel Bari Atwan at this great victory which is celebrated today. Elf Mabruk, many congratulations to you and your people for withstanding a modern day Holocaust. Abdel Bari, how must you be feeling today?
Well, I'm celebrating like you, George, because, our people are not losing. At least, maybe some people say they are not winning, but they are not losing. They managed to stay fast, as you mentioned in your introduction. People there are very happy. If you look at the Israeli people, they are depressed. They are living very, very difficult times. They believe that their country is going to be ruined completely. And they are actually following the orders of Netanyahu, who actually committing the Holocaust, as he said, and he would like this war to continue until he finished the Hamas, the resistance in Gaza. But he failed completely to achieve any of his aims. The first one is to put an end to Hamas and Hamas resistance and actually disarm Gaza Strip. Second, to actually displace all the Gazan people and send them either to Sinai or the international community, as they planned previously. And the third thing is, he actually inflicted a huge losses and the destruction of the Israeli morale, because now the Israeli believe that they don't have a chance to live and to coexist in the Middle East. And the second thing, their state, which is supposed to be one of the strongest military-wise on the whole world, cannot protect them. They cannot actually, make them living like anybody else. Ben Gurion Airport, which is the only one there, it is for the last 15 months, it was actually closed most of the time because of the missiles, because of the sirens, because of many things. So Gaza celebrating. I was talking to my sister there. I said she was so happy. She lost some of her nieces and nephews and grandchildren, but despite that, said, I'm very happy. I am going back to Gaza, where she has a house there. I said to her, but your house is destroyed completely. What are you going back for? She said, listen, I want to build a tent on the rubble of my house and live there and feel the victory. We are victorious, and this is more than enough for me. So people are celebrating, and you could see, Hamas people, Hamas soldiers, Hamas fighters, immediately after the ceasefire, they emerged from under the rubble, under the, from the tunnels, and thousands of them were there, wearing a very, very, clean and ironed, military uniforms. And they were so happy, so clean, so organized. And we noticed them when we followed them when they were celebrating the release of the 3 Israeli hostages, the first one to be released and to go back.
Now, the statement by Abu Ubaidah from the rubble, from the battlefront, was a salutary one for some people, was it not? He didn't thank a single king or president of any Arab country. He didn't thank any particular trend or current or sect inside the Arab world. He thanked those who had fought for the Palestinian people under siege and genocide in Gaza. And the people he thanked were the people that the extremists like to hate and insult. That must have been one in the eye for them.
Yes, he did not actually praise any of those Arab leaders because he considered them collaborator with the Israeli. They let down the Gazan people who were fighting in order to protect them and fighting to liberate the holy places in Jerusalem. That's it. He didn't. He actually praised the people, the Arab people who are fighting, who supported the Gaza and supported the resistance in Gaza. Also, he thanks the Yemen, which actually stand with the Palestinian, as a government and as a people from the day one, and send, hundreds of missiles to hit the depth of Israel there and reach Tel Aviv, reach Haifa, reach Jaffa, everywhere. So he thanked them. Also, he thanked Iran. Because Iran actually armed the resistance and standed with the resistance in Gaza. And so, why should he praise people or leaders who are actually controlled by United States, by the government, by Biden, and now by Trump? So he was very frank. And they don't care. Some of them, for example, Jordan, they were so upset because he didn't mention them. And also, the social media, people said to Jordan, what did you give the Palestinians? You were actually letting a lot of vegetables, a lot of foods, a lot of maybe also spare parts to go to Israel on this kind of help to them. So, Abu Ubaidah was very clear, very, very clear. He actually praise the people who deserve this praise, praise the government who deserve this praise, this praise. So now we are in a new history. Gaza entered the history, and Gaza actually is deep in its presence on the geography. So this is Gaza because of the resistance. It is not Trump who actually imposed this ceasefire. It is the resistance who actually caused the Israeli a lot of death, the Israeli army, who could not actually stay in Gaza. And they want to leave. They want actually to relax a bit. They want to reduce their losses in Gaza. So that's what happened. It is a day of victory. It is a day of celebration. And it is actually, the day of the resistance upper hand. It could be now in Gaza, and the West Bank war started. The armed intifada in the West Bank started. So the Israelis are facing a very difficult time. If Netanyahu wants to come back to war, he's welcome. Simply because the people today stayed fast for 15 days, despite the air raids, despite the missiles, despite the genocide, despite the ethnic cleansing. Those are really, really the best people. Those are actually, they are courageous. They have principles, and they want to die for their cause without any hesitation. It is a lesson to the American. It is a lesson to the Israeli. America is not actually undefeated. No, the Afghani, the Taliban, they defeated America. And also the Iraqi people, the Iraqi resistance defeated the America and kicked out their 160,000 troops, and they were actually occupying Iraq. So I believe what is happening in Gaza actually is a good example for all those countries, for all those people who are humiliated by, the Western imperialism.
Now, you and I are both so old. We remember President Abbas when he was an old man. Now he's beyond an old man. But he declared that he intends to rule in Gaza. It didn't look too much to me when I was looking at the pictures from Gaza that he would be all that welcome there. What do you say?
George, he is not welcomed in the West Bank, in Ramallah, where his actually base is. So I don't believe he will be welcomed in Gaza. And so simply because he is trying to actually prove the American he is willing to do whatever they ask him to do. Same thing to the Israeli. He sent his troops to Jenin, the camp of Jenin, and he killed many people, many resistance leaders of the resistance in Jenin, which is a very strong base of resistance in the West Bank. So he's telling the American, I am ready to go and do the same and shoot all those resistance and clear Hamas from Gaza. he is dreaming. No, he wouldn't have any place in Gaza. He wouldn't be welcomed in Gaza. I know Gaza very well because I am one of them there, and my family is there. So what I want to say that, what the Hamas ruling Gaza, and it will rule Gaza. Nobody will accept any forces from whether the traitor Arab governments or armies, or from Abbas, or from America, or from anywhere in the world. No, people of Gaza are proud of Hamas, proud of the resistance, and they want the resistance to rule them, because Hamas and Al Jihad and other organizations prove that they are capable to take a strong stand, and to protect Gazan people and try to actually liberate all of Gaza and all of Palestine. So those people are, deserved to have a ruler who is actually solid, who believe in resistance or and liberating all of Palestine. That's the Gazan people. They are different people, and it's tens of thousands of Gazan actually joined Hamas. And you could see, the number is increasing, and the Israelis are admitting that. Now the number of Hamas fighters, who used to be 24,000, according to the Israeli documents, now there are more than 100,000 fighters joined Hamas, and they are ready to continue the war. If Netanyahu wants to go back to the war, okay, they will be there. And you have to see, people there, the Israelis are leaving Gaza, and the Palestinians are staying there, and they are actually deeply rooted in Gaza, and they will continue like that. It is a day of victory, and I believe the Gazan will continue to celebrate until they teach Israeli a lesson. Israeli believe that they could enforce themselves, their occupation, their genocide on Gazan by death, by killing people. But there are people difficult or impossible to throw the towel. They will not throw the towel. Gazan people are there to fight for their just cause and to liberate all their land without any exception.
Now, the prisoners, Palestinian prisoners in their thousands, are beginning to be released, starting with women prisoners and with child prisoners. Can you believe it? They openly admit that they are holding children, and they've begun to release them. Of course, the West calls them prisoners, and they call the Israelis in Gaza hostages, but either they're both hostages or they're both prisoners. But the Palestinian prisoners are now being released, and it's a very moving sight, isn't it? People who have grown old in the Israeli dungeons. Such has been the shocking treatment that they have received.
George, if you look at the treatment of Hamas to those hostages or those prisoners, you will see, the three girls who were released, they were not actually hostages. They were models, very clean, very well dressed, very healthy. And if you look at the Palestinian, prisoners who were released by the Israeli war, forced Israeli to release them, look at them, all of them in a very bad shape and very ill, because they were badly treated. They were tortured on the Israeli prison. Imagine that Hamas, so-called terrorist organization, giving those hostages or those prisoners, the girls, they're giving them prison. And actually they take pictures with them and they say bye-bye in a very civilized way, while the Israeli actually delayed their release and treated them very badly. Those are the Israeli who are supposed to be representing the Western civilization, and those Hamas people who are supposed to represent, according to the West, the terrorists. So it is a huge difference now. So I believe now Israeli actually are losing, losing any kind of sympathy all over the world, except in the Western world. The people who came here in order to learn from them about democracy, about human rights, about respecting people, about coexistence. So this is the difference. The Hamas taught the Israeli a very important lesson of civilization, lesson of mercy, lesson of humanitarian. So this is the difference. So I believe, tomorrow or after tomorrow, we will see, those hostages, how they are going to say about Hamas, how what they will talk about Hamas and about their time when they were detained. I believe this will actually, smash all the propaganda, Western propaganda about Israel, which is representing the Western civilization. I think it is a very, very, very important moment here when you can see the humanity of the so-called terrorists and the brutality of those so-called civilized. This is the difference.
Now, you mentioned earlier, Abdel Bari, the depression on the faces of the Israeli lawmakers. They were weeping in the corridors of the Knesset. Ben Gvir has already left the government. Smotrich is threatening to leave the government. This is not just because they have been defeated in Gaza, is it? Because they had so many ambitions. They wanted to smash the Iranian Revolution, as if they could possibly dream of doing so. They wanted to smash the people's government in Yemen. They wanted to smash the resistance in Iraq. The Iranian Revolution is still standing and will go on standing, and ditto all the others. All of their plans have been confounded now.
George, the Ben Gurion, the founder of Israel, he said to them, look, listen to me. First, you have to do two things. The first, you should not actually have a war in your territory. It has to be on the Arab land. And second, it has to be short and quick. Now, Israel cannot actually apply that simply because there is resistance. And this resistance is ready to confront them. If Trump would like to go and attack Iran or something, he will pay a very heavy price. There are 50 American military bases on the Middle East. It will be, a subject, it will be a target of the missiles there, at least from Yemen, from Iran, from Lebanon, from Gaza. That's one thing. Second thing, if actually, if the Israeli and the American are going to invade Iran or bomb Iran, definitely there will be reaction. Definitely Iran has secret weapons which the Israeli don't know about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Iranian got actually a nuclear bomb. Because Blinken told us about 6 months ago that Iran is capable of producing a nuclear bomb in less than a week. So maybe we don't know yet, but I hope they wouldn't make this mistake. I know Trump, he doesn't like Iran. I know Trump, actually, he canceled the Iranian-American or Iranian international agreement to actually freeze all the activities, nuclear activities, and so not to produce any sort of nuclear weapon. But if he makes this mistake, he will pay a very heavy price. The European will pay a very heavy price. It will be energy crisis all over the Europe, especially in big European countries who are dependent on the energy from outside. So maybe I wouldn't be surprised if Netanyahu put pressure on Trump to actually attack Iran, because Netanyahu knew that he cannot do it himself and alone without the American support. But Netanyahu managed to influence Trump and ask him to cancel the nuclear treatment, the nuclear actually agreement. And so what happened? It was a gift, a God gift to the Iranian. They managed to get rid of these in terms of this agreement. Now, if he actually, Netanyahu managed to convince Trump to go and attack Iran, I believe it will be a third world war. And I don't believe the Iranian will just throw the towel or submit for any attacks. They will fight until actually they teach the American a lesson, exactly like the Taliban, who don't have maybe 1% of the Iranian weapons, or how they managed actually to kick the American out of Afghanistan, and the same the Iraqi, who were actually very poorly armed, and they managed to kick 160,000 American forces from Iraq, and actually put an end to the American invasion and occupation of Iraq. So I hope, we wouldn't reach that moment. I hope, Trump will be wise enough and to learn from his previous lessons and to actually work for peace, not for war in the Middle East.
And Iran, of course, has a brand new strategic partnership agreement with the Russian Federation, which makes an attack on Iran even more expensive for anyone who dreams of it. Abdel Bari Atwan, the great Arab journalist, enjoy this day, and thank you for joining us on Have It Out with Galloway. Let's go to the video wall now. The unique feature of this show is that the audience can join in and in person. Let's start off in England, in Exmouth, where Jenna Quayle has a point she wishes to make. Jenna, welcome to the show. What would you like to say?
Assalamu alaikum, George. I would like to reflect on the Israeli hostages. One of the girls was a British dual national. Statistics are that there's about 44,000 British Israeli dual nationals. As we know, to live in Israel, you have to be a part of the IDF. So everyone who lives in Israel has served. My question really would be, is there any way that we can, the ones especially that have served since the 7th of October, is there any way that we can do anything as a country to stop them coming back in, or to have them arrested, to be, to stand charged for the war crimes that they've committed? I'm not too sure how we would do it, but that's something that I think that we should look at.
Well, if we had a decent country and a decent legal and democratic system, that would, of course, be the case. Someone like me risks arrest giving an interview to Russian media. I'm not making that up. Whilst a dual national can go to Gaza and kill women and children and come back, not only without difficulty, but can come back and resume their place, even in the British police force, even in the man in the bank, the man working at Tesco, could well be in their other life a killer for Netanyahu of women and children in Gaza, and they are able to walk freely amongst us as if the whole killing fields had not happened. There may be attempts by private individuals to take legal action to highlight these matters, and that may very well be worth trying, but I suspect that they will not get far, because you and I live in a country that is up to its eyes and beyond its eyes in the blood of the Palestinian people in Gaza, in Jerusalem, in the West Bank, and our government has played one of the most shameful roles in the entire world, where there were many bad actors. The British government under Sir Keir Starmer has played a despicable role, and the poor pilots of the Royal Air Force were ordered by the British government to effectively act as targeters, spotters for Netanyahu's killing machine. How about that for a government to be ashamed of? So you're right to highlight this issue. You ask if anything can be done about it. I doubt it, but I'm open to any idea that anyone has as to how it could be tackled. David Atherton is in London in the United Kingdom. David, what would you like to say?
Well, I was asked to ask you a question about Donald Trump. And as you can see, I'm at a Donald Trump party in London at the moment. where I come from. And good old Donald Trump has saved the Chagos Islands for Britain. And my question for you is, do you think the populists in Europe will coalesce around Donald Trump and reject the Europe and the European Union?
Well, I was myself at the US Embassy today at midday, and my 4-year-old is currently running around with a hat on just like yours. I won't be wearing it for a variety of reasons, but we were there at the embassy to say goodbye and good riddance to the criminal regime of Biden and Blinken. So you're happy that Trump is back. I'm not myself happy that he's back, but I'm very happy indeed that Kamala Harris isn't back, that Joe Biden isn't back, and that Anthony Blinken isn't back. And we hope that the Donald Trump who spoke at the in his rally the night before his inauguration, we were very happy at what he said. He reinstated TikTok. He declared that he had ordered this ceasefire in Gaza. He declared that he would stop World War III. He declared that he would be talking to President Putin and President Xi Jinping, and that he would stop the world spiraling into nuclear conflagration, which would be the end of all of us. So if President Trump does what he said he would do, and if he succeeds in doing it, the world has dodged the biggest bullet possible, the nuclear bullet. And I'm fully convinced that if Biden and Harris had continued in office, if Harris and Blinken had continued in office, we were on a helter-skelter to the Third World War. Now, your direct question, it's true that populism is rising in Europe. I myself have never understood what's wrong with populism. I've never understood why populism is a bad word in politics. And there are right-wing populists and there are populists like me. We are on different sides of most political arguments, though not all of them by any means. And we have to compete amongst our public, our populations, for the affections, for the loyalty of the people. And we'll see how that conflict goes. But I'd rather a polity in which it's me versus Nigel Farage than a polity in which it's Rishi Sunak against Keir Starmer. And I think that that's true in Germany, it's true in France, it's true in many other parts of Europe, that the centre, as they like to call themselves, cannot hold because they have completely failed. They have self-harmed their own societies, their own democracy, their own economies. They have committed economic suicide in the case of Germany, for example. And if people are sick of the centre, they'll have to look for something new. And people like Farage offer that something new in Britain, and so do I. And the people will have to choose. Thank you for your call. I'm going to go to Spain, though. Lorena Senates in Vigo, in Spain. Lorena, welcome to the show. What would you like to say?
Hello, Mr. Galloway. Hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
Well, my question is about the British campaign against anti-Semitism, which is portraying Israel as the victim and using Zionist propaganda against, the Palestinian people suffering in Gaza. However, we know that Palestinians are also Semitic people, so this definition of anti-Semitism is, in reality, it doesn't work. So we should not buy into this rhetoric. Do you agree that organizations like this should be disbanded and held to account for for enabling genocide in Gaza?
Well, thank you. Look, I mean, I wish they would disband themselves, but I have no faith that they will do that, and they certainly will not be forced to do it by governments who follow their line almost to the letter. So if we're going to do anything about that, we'll have to elect different governments, a different kind of governments. You're right to make the point that the Palestinians are Semitic, and most Israelis are not Semitic at all. They originate in Central and Eastern Europe by conversion to Judaism, albeit many centuries ago. So anti-Semitism is not the correct term. But Jew hatred is a real thing. I mean, I come across them on social media. And hatred of Jews is every bit as pernicious and evil as hatred of Muslims or Catholics. It's as bad as hating black people or brown people, and we must have no truck with it. But what we will not allow is the weaponization of definitely existing hatred of Jews as a defense for crimes of this magnitude that we have been watching in Gaza, because just because you were a victim of Jew hatred and massacre in the past by Europeans does not allow you to carry out the same kind of massacres and deploy the same kind of anti-human tactics as the state of Israel has been carrying out in Gaza. In short, we do not believe that Netanyahu speaks for the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are not collectively responsible for the crimes of Netanyahu. Where is the biggest community of Jews in the entire region outside of what they call Israel? It's in Iran. Iranian Jews live a good life in Iran amongst their Muslim neighbors. They are an honored, indeed treasured part of the Iranian society. They have members of parliament. They have social, religious, civic organizations. There is no anti-Semitism in Iran. There's just a great deal of hatred against the crimes being committed by the state led by Netanyahu. Thanks for that call. Cordelia Ghaffar is in Washington, D.C., where it all happened. Cordelia, what would you like to say?
You know, I just want to put into the conversation with the unpredictable nature of Trump's ever-shifting foreign policies. How can our historic international partners be confident that the West, particularly the United States, is a dependable partner for the next 4 years?
Well, frankly, I hope it isn't, because if your point is that America needs to be a dependable partner of the war machine of NATO, I very much hope that the United States will not be. If it is your point that the United States should continue to support the dictatorship in Kiev with hundreds of billions of dollars of money that your own people need, your own society needs, I hope the United States will not be dependable. If your point is that Israel should be able to continue to count on an endless flow of weapons and money, I hope the United States will not be dependable in that way. But I don't think you should mistake the declared positions of European governments with the actual opinions of the European people, as you found in France in their election, so you will find in Germany in their election. And you would have found in Romania if NATO and the EU had not demolished, destroyed the democratic rights of the Romanian people. You will find in election after election that the European people don't want a partner like the United States has been in recent years. They love the American people. I have American blood in my veins. We love the American people. We wish them every success in mending the broken bridges in their society. We wish them every happiness and prosperity as they rebuild their country under their new president. But we want them to stop making war all over the world. I think you should think about that in relation to your question. Ali Nasser is in London. He sent me a message. Let's hear it.
Hello, here's my question. Do you agree with me that Trump's expansionist remarks about Panama, Canada, and Greenland indicate an ambition to forcefully re-establish the Monroe Doctrine? Although he only mentioned a handful of countries, the fact that they are all within the Western Hemisphere gives me the impression that he intends to pursue a more bullish policy, both militarily and economically, across the whole of what is traditionally considered to be the USA's backyard. Furthermore, the outgoing Biden administration significantly increased the reward money for Maduro's arrest, so both parties appear to be shifting their focus to the Americas right now. Considering the history of US military intelligence and business activities in this region, should we not be alarmed about these indications from Washington? And if the next Juan Guaido figure is a success story, what could be the implications of this for Latin America, which now seems to include Canada as well?
Well, it's a very good question, especially as I've just returned from Venezuela. I still have the dust of Venezuela on my shoes. I don't think that the United States is strong enough to re-establish the worst manifestations of the Monroe Doctrine. I think that these three issues that you raised should all be taken separately. First of all, the United States is not going to acquire Canada because the majority of the Canadian people will not agree to it. I think they will acquire Greenland because the Danish government is a slave government and will do nothing at all to hold on to its own sovereign territory. They have already washed their hands of the matter by saying it's a matter for the people of Greenland. Well, there's only 50,000 people in Greenland, and I'm sure that Donald Trump Jr. has already offered them $1 million apiece, and it would be a steal, and I think they will steal it. They will not be able to reoccupy Panama because that would set ablaze a flame of Latin American anti-Yankee nationalism that the United States would not be able to contain. They can't even contain the fires in their own state of California, never mind Latin America on fire. They may be able to have some face-saving arrangement where their personnel guarantee the safety of American shipping through the canal, but they will not be able to take over Panama. Of that, I'm absolutely sure. And therefore, by extension, I feel that any declarations about re-establishing absolute American hegemony over the southern part of the Americas is doomed to failure. Desmond Thompson is in London. He's up next. Desmond, what would you like to say?
Good afternoon, George.
Good afternoon.
On my mind is a vote that was taken in Parliament, I think, last year on continuing the bombing of Palestine. And all the MPs who voted yes, in my mind, and very clear, that they are war criminals. They approved the massacre of people. Now, regardless of any race or religion or community, they certainly do not deserve this massive bombing that was taken out. More bombs were dropped on Gaza than the entire Vietnam War. This is an absolutely horrendous crime of the 20th and 21st century. And these people here in London voted for it. In my opinion, they should actually be charged under the English common law as criminals.
Well, I feel just as strongly as you about that. They didn't actually vote to bomb Gaza, but they voted against a ceasefire, having earlier refused a vote by subterfuge in the form of the Speaker of the House. But you're absolutely correct to say that the vast majority, I mean vast majority of the members of the House of Commons are jointly responsible for a war crime. They are jointly responsible for defiance of international law, defiance of the decisions of the International Court of Justice, defiance of the arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court, defiance of all law and morality around war, its conduct, and the crimes against humanity that have been carried out in Gaza. With British collaboration, with British weapons being used, with British Air Force jets being flown on reconnaissance missions, the better to target the people in tents in Gaza that were being bombed with weapons made in Britain and licensed by the British government. I don't just mean this British government. I also mean the last British government. Two cheeks of the same backside, Tory and Labour, vying with each other as to how enthusiastically they could support this genocide of which Netanyahu and his allies are clearly guilty. Let's go to my own country of Scotland, where J.A. Fern sent me this message. Let's hear it. Go ahead, sir.
Evening, George. Thank you for taking my question. Simple, really. With each day that passes, there seems to be another scandal comes out about Labour. And as positive and encouraging as that might be for people like the Conservatives and Reform, what it actually does is adds another crack and another fracture into our society, causing more rifts, more problems, more stress and more likeliness of something exploding. So how would you've got much more experience in this than most of us do, how would you go about keeping peace on the streets?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have sacked all the police officers that the series of consecutive British governments have sacked. I would have more police. I'd have sterner punishments for crimes, and I would tackle the mass poverty and alienation that exists within our country. Without these three things, crime will continue to be a suppurating sore in British society. We have a society where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, where the facilities available to youth, young people up and down the country vanish to the point of complete disappearance. We have no religion. We have no patriotism. We have no social cohesion. We have division upon division upon division everywhere. Somebody has to heal those divisions. Somebody has to close the gap between the rich and poor in Britain. Somebody has to get a hold of situations in Britain and by the scruff of the neck solve them, and forget about trying to solve problems in Eastern Europe when we have such problems here at home. I've run out of time. My apologies to those who didn't get on the show. It's been marvelous for me. I hope it was for you. Next time, same place, next week for Have It Out with Galloway. Thanks for joining me.